today we have a guest, Himendu, my friend.
Hi everyone.
So today we're gonna do a review of a really cool game, Uno All Wild. So do you wanna tell them how we managed to find this masterpiece?
Yeah. So we were just walking through Target, shopping for some stuff, and on the board game aisle, we found this game, Uno All Wild, and the packaging is really interesting, and the name is of course very appealing, right? It says All Wild. So we thought, yeah, why not try this game? It may be a cool spin-off, and we could have some fun. But unfortunately, it one of the only reasons, as we later found out, that we purchased this game was because we hadn't read a single review. If we even came across one of them, just one of them, this would not be
What are you
worth our
talking
money.
about? This is such a fun game. Don't you love playing games where half the deck is useless?
Oh yeah, I'm kidding, guys. It's the best game ever, and we're gonna tell you exactly why. So, as you all know, the original Uno is a card game in which you have a bunch of cards, different numbers, different colors, and the goal is to try and lose all your cards. And this game, which came out in January of 2022, is a spin-off of the original game, which takes one of the coolest cards, the wild card, and makes it seem like every card is wild, which may not be the case, that we'll find out later. And for those of you who haven't played Uno at all, the wild card is essentially it lets you change the color that's currently in play. So you drop the card and you pick which color your opponent gets to play. And another interesting feature of this card is that you can also drop it at any time, no matter
Because it
what the
matches
color
with
is.
anything.
Exactly, because it matches everything.
No, but the thing with that is that in the original Uno, Wild is an interesting card because it can be a game changer for the game, because obviously you don't anticipate it happening and you're trying to like figure out what colors everyone has, right? And if they have this card, then they can pretty much get like the color change to whatever they want it to be. That's fun when you have other things like strategy and some planning and you're like trying to mess with someone or you're trying to win the game. It's not fun if it's literally the only I don't want to use bad language, but the only card in the entire pack. Nothing, it doesn't mean anything then. It literally means nothing. It's everything is wild, so you can play anything at any time and it is useless. So how do you play this brilliant game? The gameplay is pretty much similar to the regular Uno. You deal 7 cards, and except the only difference is that you don't ignore whatever is on the card that's placed down, because they're all wild. So kind of makes sense that we would do that.
So the way in which this game differs from the original Uno game is that it takes away the very fun and strategic aspect of the game. So in the original game, you have plenty of colors and plenty of numbers that you can use to change the numbers or colors currently in play and mess with the opponent. In this game, however, all your cards match with every other card, and so there's never a moment in the game where you cannot put down a card you have. Every card matches. So you're just blindly and endlessly putting down cards and nothing makes sense and everything's terrible and it's not fun at all.
And by the way, I finished playing my turn, which was about 20 cards.
Yeah.
But the thing that's actually frustrating to me is the fact that because all the cards are wild and they have different meanings, they are quite literally useless if supposing you have a wild card. And you would think because the wild card is useless, there'd be like one or two of them. No, there's 54 of them, and the deck is only 112 cards long. And the cheekiness of this game, look, it literally says in the thing, it says wild. This is a common card in the deck, and you're going to be playing a lot of them. Thank you for that information. Yes, we know it's almost half the deck. To keep things interesting, maybe call out a color when you play one. It won't change anything, but so what? At least there's one less card in your hand, right? What? That is the worst thing. I still can't believe that they put that in the instructions. They know that it's a useless card, and they still put it in the instructions.
When the manual tells you that it's not going to make a difference, but do it anyway, that's when you know that the game is lacking things to do, so you just do pointless things.
I agree. I think it's like fun to play that card when you're like messing with someone or like, trying to win the game. When you're doing it like this, it's just like, oh great, I played a wild card. Yay. Change the color to turquoise, man. That's the real stuff.
You can actually say that, turquoise.
It wouldn't be any
difference,
different.
by the way. And another aspect of the game is when you're trying to play the game, naturally, you're going to play it in the most efficient way possible. So you're going to use the cards that actually matter first. Your power cards, for example, your draw twos, your skips, your reverses, right? And only then you're going to move on to your cards that don't matter. For example, the wild card, or as we'll discuss later, the double skip. So the thing is, at any point in time, when somebody uses the wild card or the double skip, it means that they've run out of all the cards that actually matter. So what essentially ends up happening in this game is when anybody plays a wild card,
Like I did right now.
you can essentially predict the hand the other player has, because they've already played all the cards that really matter and change the game. So their entire hand is just going to be wild cards,
Yeah.
which are essentially
So
useless.
I don't even need to hide my deck from him anymore
Exactly.
because he knows what I'm gonna play next. It's gonna be a wild. So yeah. So in theory, I guess you could save your like power cards for like the end of the game, but in the long run, you're gonna realize that none of this matters at all.
To add to this game is virtually unplayable as a two-player game, even though the box specifically mentions that it's okay to play with 2 to 10 players.
It is true. So, just for context, there's two new cards actually in this deck, and one of them is a targeted draw two, and the other one's a double skip. Now, the double skip basically means what it says is that you can skip two people, which is like a good thing in like a 2+ player game. But like when you're playing with just one more person, it's pretty much just you skip them and then the next person is you, so you skip yourself. So basically that amounts to
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
So now we have 8 more useless cards. So that means technically more than half the deck is completely useless.
That's so bad. I can't believe that they made useless cards. And the worst part is that a targeted draw two, again, could be useful in a multiplayer game because it is you get to choose who draws two. But in the case of like a 2-player game, it's pretty much just like, hey, it's a targeted draw two.
Well, I guess that obviously means you're choosing yourself.
No, actually, I'm just gonna choose you.
What?
Haha, sucker!
Also, it's actually worse than the regular draw 2 because it does not skip your opponent's turn.
Thumbs,
Thumbs down.
thumbs down the video. So, if you've been keeping track at home, that would be basically 3 different strategies for pretty much any turn in this game. Number 1 is you just keep playing all your power cards until you get to a wild or a targeted draw 2 or a double skip, but that's basically a wild. Number 2, you play your sad Uno wild card and then cry about your life. Or number 3, you exchange your garbage deck for somebody who's clearly doing better than you, and then you win the game.
Also, if you have two exchange cards, they're basically pointless because you use the first one and you exchange hands, and then your opponent can choose to simply use the second card and get their original hand back if they had maybe either fewer or better cards.
Yeah, and it's basically like, even if supposing you decide to save them for the end, right? You'll be forced to play one, exchange your deck with their garbage deck, and then, or then they would just lose at that point.
And if the last 2 cards that you're left with are both exchange cards, then you essentially lose because you put the first one down, you exchange your hand, and then your opponent just puts the second one down and the game ends and they win.
I guess like if I think about this, like because we are two people, if it's like a multiplayer game, this could possibly work because you would exchange your like exchange it with somebody, and then they would like go through a bunch of turns. But the thing is that if supposing your hand is still better than whatever you exchanged it with, they're by the time their turn comes, they're probably just gonna exchange it back. So it's probably pretty much still pointless.
Add to this the problem that also exists in the original game. The skip and reverse cards are essentially the same. So that brings down the total to 5 possible cards that can be played. But that's only coming down from what were initially 8 distinct cards. So all things considered, it's not really that much different from a 3-player game.
Yeah, I will say that it does improve a little bit though. So I don't think it's like the worst when you play it with more than 3 players. But even then, literally, you could play this game blindfolded, and it would make no difference whatsoever for the most part.
Believe me, we tried. Reverse, draw 4, draw 4, draw 2, reverse, draw 4, and you won. That's the game, guys. I lost.
What a great game!
I hate this game. I hate this game. I hate it. I hate it.
It just ended in like one turn.
Wow. This game, dude. It hurts me. So yeah, this game is pretty terrible. It just sounds like they made it because some exec thought it would be a good idea. I genuinely believe that even if they play tested this game once, they would realize that it's not fun at all.
Yeah, so I guess it is like a catchy idea because that's why we bought it to begin with. It can be interesting when you read it. But if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, you'll realize it's not at all fun. It's basically like playing Mario, but instead of having to grind for stars, pretty much every step you take is a star. So you win in like 4 steps pretty much. It's like such a bad speed run of any game because there's no strategy involved. I genuinely think that I would give this game like a 2 out of 10 because the packaging is pretty and the cards are all printed well. I guess that's a positive, right?
If you say so.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. Actually, I'll give it one more point. It did make me have an existential crisis. It's pretty much like watching like an old art film, you know. Nothing has any meaning and we're all meant to be dead. How much do you give it?
I give this game a 0 out of 10 because that's the number of times I had fun playing it.
Yeah, so anyway, you can see our recommendation for this game. Now it's up to you to try it out and let us know if you liked it or not. Preferably don't. But definitely please like and subscribe to this channel and share any comments if you have already played this game or if you're planning to prank your friends by buying this game. Thank you and bye bye.
I have only poopy cards.
That's why I exchanged with you.
Fuck. I was like, what happened to my non-poopy cards? Okay.
To be fair, all of them are pretty.
It's a poopy deck. It's a poopy game. Okay.